Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session Why You Should Pursue a Cybersecurity Degree in 2022. I'm Richa, and I'll be your host for the day. Before we get started, I would like to go over a few house rules. For our attendees, the session will be in listen only mode and will last for an hour, out of which last 10 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. If you have any questions during the webinars to organizers or panelists, please post your query in the Q&A window. Also, if you face any audio video challenges, please check your internet connections or you may log out and log in again. An important announcement for certificate of attendance. Participant needs to attend the complete webinar to qualify for the certificate of attendance. Participants should fill in the survey form in the attendees thank you email and answer the 3 questions based on the webinar provided with the right answers within the same day. If these 2 criteria are met, then only the participant will receive the certificate of attendance within 5 to 7 working days after the event. About our speaker, Arthur Salmon holds a doctorate in cybersecurity and information assurance, a master's degree in network and communication management with a focus on cybersecurity in policy and procedural development, and a bachelor's degree in technical management and business information systems. Arthur has worked in the technology field for 20 years and for the last 12 years has also taught courses on general security, networking, ethical hacking, and compliance, among other topics. Although Arthur spends most of his time developing learning materials, including various articles and a textbook on cybersecurity. He enjoys photography and outdoor activity in his free time. So without any further delay, I would like to hand over the session to our speaker, Arthur. Over to you, Arthur. Arthur, over to you.
There we go. I say you muted me, so I couldn't unmute myself. So hello, good morning, or good evening, depending where you're located. So like she said, my name is Arthur Salmon. I do have an applied doctorate in information assurance, and I've been working in education for about 12 years. I keep getting asked this question by industry, by individuals, by managers, and one of the big ones is, why now? Why do we need to worry about getting a degree in 2022? So the main purpose is for us today is to talk about careers in cyber, kind of what's happening, what's going on with the shift in cyber, and why starting that career now is going to be important. We're going to talk about how to get your career started, pathways to that career, and the big ones are expectations and opportunities. I talk to learners pretty much daily about the different expectations about what they're going to expect when they do a cybersecurity type degree and job. And then we're going to end it with some tips and tricks. So when we have learners that are kind of new, how do they break into the cybersecurity career path? So again, about me, I have an applied doctorate. I have 20 years in IT experience, networking, security, compliance, programming. Don't like programming, but I can do it. More importantly is the educational connection. Again, I've been teaching in post-secondary education for about 12 years. I'm currently located in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I help write state standards for education. I help build pipelines K through 12, and that means kindergarten through 6th grade, middle school, high school, building them pathways into a post-secondary education. So we actually have skilled cyber labor, and that's actually going to be really important as we proceed in this webinar. I have plethora of certifications, A+, all the CompTIAs, all the Cisco's, the Microsofts, AWS, and so forth. So yeah, one of the big things is the trainings that I do. I do a lot of one-on-one training. I do faculty training. I train K through 12 faculty how to teach their high schoolers. I train universities how to train their faculty in cyber, and I also do corporate training. So one of the things that I do is I help facilitate programs and educators in how to develop their program better, how to get people funneled into their degrees, their pathways, whether it is an actual associate's, a bachelor's, or a certification program. So there's some variation there. All right, so the big thing is, why do we need to worry about a cybersecurity career today? And the big thing is, there is a massive shift in working practices. Pre-COVID, we had a workforce that was willing to tolerate a lot. During COVID, during lockdowns, a lot of our workforce started realizing, wait, why do I want to settle for this mediocre job? I can wait and I can work on getting the job that I want now and not have to work these mediocre type jobs. So we're seeing that shift in the workforce and the potential employees' willingness to wait for a better opportunity. So again, that willingness has shifted pre from pre-COVID to post-COVID. Also, COVID taught us one thing, and that is, in a dime, we can shift. We went from an on-site society to a remote society extremely quick. At least in the west coast of the US, as our lockdowns went into place, we quickly shifted from having to drive to the office to walk into the living room or walking into a home office and working from home. I'm actually in my home office right now. I wasn't able to make it to my actual office today, but most people shifted to a home office and they started realizing it's way more convenient, less stress, less commute, and the benefits. So how does this translate to wanting a cybersecurity career? Well, the fun part is that remote component. All that workforce going into that at-home portion meant that telecommuting was becoming more popular, and the attackers knew that. So the cybersecurity portion of it kicked into high gear. For example, here in Nevada, the state government, they decided to move their workforce 80% online. The amount of cyber attacks stepped up drastically. The state wasn't quite ready for the amount of cyber attacks, so their hiring for cybersecurity professionals jumped in high gear as well, and they realized they don't have enough trained professionals. So they actually started subsidizing people that would be willing to be retrained in cybersecurity, and they were handing out money left and right. Hey, you want to get a cybersecurity degree? Here's your tuition. So there has been that shift because of the workforce, but because of that workforce shift, there was a protection shortage. So that actually allowed better funding for cybersecurity. So what does it mean, cybersecurity person or a cybersecurity professional or a cybersecurity analyst? What is a cybersecurity career? And oftentimes I get asked this so many times, I'm not technical, or I'm not good at computers. Can I still get into cyber? Cyber is multiple silos. So we have the pen testers. That's one thing I get a lot too, is I want to be a hacker or I want to be a pen tester. That's one small facet of cybersecurity. That's not all cybersecurity. That's just one little area. We have network security. I talk to people that are very much more engaged with the forensics or the puzzle side. They see an event and they want to see how that event played out. That's the incident response or digital forensics aspect. I have people that are non-technical that enjoy paperwork. Some people hate paperwork, some people absolutely love it. That's going to be the compliance, the auditor type position. And that's not technical. That literally is reading the paperwork. Hey, do you have this? Do you have this? Do you have this? And just reading off that checklist. That is still cybersecurity. So I get questions on that a lot. What do we mean by a auditor cybersecurity? why is compliance cybersecurity? Again, I'm in Las Vegas. The big thing here are casinos. Each casino probably has 5 or 6 in-house auditors. They have 1 or 2 compliance officers because they all have to follow local, state, federal, industry regulations and guidelines. But that means they also have to be verified they're getting all those guidelines checked off. So all of them have those types of positions opened. Pre-COVID and post-COVID, they've only just increased. So cyber careers are not just technical. So I said casinos. And casinos, again, because of my location, are very popular. But what happens if you're out of country or you're in another state where the casinos aren't as popular? Well, guess what, cyber? There's still jobs in almost every industry. If you work in the energy industry, guess what? Cyber's there. If you work in water reclamation, cyber's there. If you work in manufacturing, cyber's still there. Cyber has invaded almost every facet of our normal society. It doesn't matter your job now, there is a cyber component to just about everything. Now, if you want to really drill down, we could probably find a job where cyber isn't involved. However, cyber is almost in everything. So, are there really that many cybersecurity jobs in demand? Yes. Technology has been driving our processes to be better, to be more efficient, to be more secure. And as we've grown, guess what? Our technology has kind of pushed us forward, but the protection of that technology hasn't quite got up. So I worked with an organization in California about protecting water pumps, just statewide, how we can make sure the water supply statewide was secure. And we started looking at water pumps at each location. Turns out, for convenience, the water engineers, they would drive around in their truck, they would go next to a water pump, hit scan on their device, and the water pumps were just broadcasting data. Well, realistically, that's really convenient. However, the potential for attack increased. We seen it last year with the oil pipeline. Again, we're seeing more and more cyber events happening, and organizations are starting to realize, oh, we need trained professionals. So that only then pushes the demand for trained professionals in cybersecurity. And the scary part here is we hear probably every other day about a cyber attack, and those are the attacks that we hear about. How many attacks go unreported? And numbers vary between half the attacks up to 80% of the attacks go unreported. Because if you're the organization that has an attack happen against you and you have a breach, that's your reputation. You don't want to advertise that. So they start putting the need for more and more trained professionals out there. So careers in cyber are only ramping up. And numbers say we are 1 million shy now. What happens by the end of 2022? How many millions of unfilled jobs are we going to have globally? And keep in mind that million jobs, that's predominantly in the US. Now we look at the global demand market, and the demand for trained professionals globally, it's even higher. So why a cybersecurity degree? If we're looking at a cybersecurity career path, why a degree? One of the big things is I get asked by hiring managers, what should we be looking for? Degree, certification, experience, or other forms of training? Well, a degree is a great way to start. If you're not quite sure, a degree at least builds the foundation concepts. So in the state of Nevada, we have for ninth graders in high school, so in high school, ninth through their senior year, we build a pathway, A plus, digital forensics, network plus, security plus, through the CompTIA pathway. Well, I get asked, well, how is A plus basic PC building tied into cyber? Well, it's a foundation technology. It's a foundation concept. A degree helps build the foundation. From the foundation, we can build other disciplines. But if you don't have a foundation, it makes it really hard to build off of. So that degree at least helps build that foundation. So then the next question I get is, well, I already have a bachelor's in finance, or I have a bachelor's in civil engineering. Can I still do a degree in cyber? Sure. When we say a degree, normally people think an associate's, a bachelor's, a graduate degree, but most programs also have a certificate of completion. So it's an add-on to your degree. So if you already have a bachelor's and you want to get retooled into digital forensics, instead of taking a new degree, you take a certificate. That is still part of the degree pathways in education. So that still works. Also, you have to look at there are jobs at every level. There are technician jobs. There are engineer jobs. There are manager jobs. There are research jobs. And that's something that a lot of people fail to realize also. I have a bachelor's in finance and I got a certificate as a digital forensics specialist. Can I do research? You can, but realistically, with those two, the bachelor's and the certificate, that's more leaning towards a technician or a entry-level engineer type role. If you have a graduate degree and then you have an additional certificate in cybersecurity, that could be more managerial and or research. So these degrees can have a collection of a non-technical, non-cyber degree and a applied certificate coupled together so that you can work at different levels within cyber. Research versus application. So that's always a fun one. Understand that there's a difference between a technician and an engineer. Oftentimes, we like to say, oh, well, we need engineers, when in reality, we need technicians. Technicians go and do things. They apply their knowledge. Engineers make things. Oftentimes, we like to say we want an engineer, but we don't need, 20 cooks in the kitchen per se. We need one or two cooks in the kitchen, and we need the supporting people to support the cook. In that example, the cook's the engineer, and the technicians support the engineer. So in research, you typically have the engineer. You have the person coming up with, hey, this is what we want to do, the overall idea. The technicians help build and implement that idea under the guidance of the researcher or the engineer. So why now? Why is 2022 the right time to pursue that career? Well, we've already known there's an uptick in attacks. We already know there's an uptick in job opportunities. We already know that globally within the education sector and within government, there are more opportunities now for third parties paying for the education. So now is a great time to start because there's ways to get, well, honestly, to get your degree for free or extremely reduced because the amount of attacks have only increased and they're only going to keep increasing. So again, common questions, how do I start? Honestly, if you already have a degree, maybe look at a certificate. If you don't have a degree, figure out which pathway is right for you. I normally tell learners pick or go read through the CISSP domains and pick out the areas that are interest to you. If you have a few areas of interest, maybe look in degrees in those areas. If you know you hate paperwork, don't become an auditor. If you are really good at figuring out how to break things and get into things, maybe red team or offensive security is more your cup of tea. But you have to figure out what areas you enjoy. If you don't enjoy it, you're not going to want to stay. So look at what areas are important and kind of what is your avenue forward. Second, degree versus cert. And we like to think it's one or the other, or it's one of them. They're not mutually exclusive. You don't have to do one or the other. You don't have to do both. I've talked to several hiring managers. They don't want either. I've talked to other hiring managers. They want one or the other. The big thing is look at your area. And oftentimes a degree is helpful. Degrees are additionally helpful. If you have nothing and someone also applies for the same job and you have a degree and they don't, you may be picked over one. If you have a cert and they don't, you may be picked over them. So you want to have things that they don't. Super common question is, am I too old? And the fun part here is I've had a 70-year-old woman in one of my courses. She was retooling from HR into cyber, and she just found there was a component in HR that was dealing with cyber that she really liked. So she wanted to make that jump. And she did end up working for about 4 years in cyber within the HR department doing the auditing portion. She absolutely loved it. I have workers that are 18. I have workers that are mid 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. So are you too old? The answer is no. As long as you are willing to put the time and energy, it's all right. What if you're not tech savvy or computer savvy? Again, that's okay. As long as you understand there are avenues or pathways for cyber for you. You have to figure out which areas you enjoy, and there's typically non-technical portions of cyber that are still needing workers. So, opportunities. First of all, work-life balance. More and more large organizations are realizing because there is a shortage of workers, they're not burning you out as much. They want a better work-life balance because them working you 80 hours a week, 12 months a year, 7 days a week, you will burn out. And if you burn out, that's less professionals in the industry. So more jobs are starting to realize, okay, we cannot work you that hard because if you burn out, we can't replace you. So they're starting to come up with a better work-life balance. We also have more rewards coming into cyber because again, there's a massive shortage of workers. They are actually giving better rewards for those workers. Lastly, challenges. So I work in cyber, my partner works in cyber, and the fun part is new challenges regularly, daily. It's not the same work over and over. So there are opportunities in the challenges because that challenge allows us to grow, really allows us to hone our skills. It really pulls from the different areas. I've had the opportunity to use my programming background in cyber. I've had my opportunities to use my networking background in cyber because of different challenges. And those challenges became opportunities. I was able to showcase what I could do, how I could grow, how I could affect actual change. And they've actually made opportunities for me. I was able to work for a state organization to fix a few issues. I was doing it relatively quickly. That right there got the managers talking about me. That opened up opportunities in other areas for me to do things. So sometimes being able to overcome challenges is the opportunity. All right, expectations. I'm actually going to grab a pen. This is two different areas. What are the expectations from the worker? I want to start a cybersecurity job. What are my expectations? And the fun part is we all have this understanding, oh, if I start a cyber job, I'm going to be wearing a hoodie, I'm going to be in a dark room, I'm going to be doing hacking or coding. That's not always what you're doing. Sometimes physical or sometimes security or cybersecurity means a physical component. Sometimes cybersecurity means physical security. Maybe you're setting up cameras. Maybe you are looking at log analysis. Maybe you're staring at a screen looking at cyber events. Maybe you're doing research on cyber events. So you have to understand when you're looking at a job role, what are the expectations of that job role? And every industry is going to be different. Every organization is going to be different. Pretty common event for a worker coming in is going to be that you're doing log analysis for the first 6 months. You're going to be looking through and analyzing logs. You're going to be looking through the process of the flow of data through the organization. That's a pretty common expectation. From the employer's standpoint, the employer's expectation is if you start an entry-level job, you're going to be kind of green. You're not going to have the experience. So the best way for them to give you the experience is, guess what? That log analysis. That will be the fastest way for them to get you up to speed with their organization. That way you can see the flow into the organization. So how does a career help you for this? How does a career help build and set those expectations? One of the big things, there's typically a disconnect. I attended university and I got all this theory. How do I take the theory and apply it to my expectations of the job from the employer's perspective? Oftentimes, we like to do, mediocre in university. We won't like to do all the extracurriculars, and that's where we're failing. In the process of going to a university, college, a 2-year, a 4-year, a graduate program, we often forget those extras, and that's how we get ahead. Competency-based education. It's a show me what you can do, don't tell me. I don't care that you finished a bachelor's. Show me what you learned in your bachelor's program. And that is becoming more and more commonplace because you having 5 or 4 years of programming classes, but can you apply that knowledge in a real world scenario? That competency-based education is growing. Well, guess what? In that university, you have opportunities to build that competency. In that university program, you have the opportunity to build the relationship with other competitions. There are daily, weekly, quarterly, every semester based competitions. There are competitions for full-time students, for part-time students, for non-students. There are offensive competitions, there are defensive competitions, there are cyber competitions for just about every area. Yet we're not doing them. A lot of universities aren't really pushing them, but guess what? By doing them, you can show experience. Hey, I may not have a year work experience. However, while I was attending university, I have this list of competitions that I did. I can show that I did these things. At least here in Nevada, in the western region of the US, that is being used as work experience because you've been able to show that you're competent in those areas. At the college and university level, it's collaboration. We're not silos. If you only work alone, you're not going to be okay. When you go to work in a career path, in a casino or in a manufacturing shop or government or pick an industry, you're not alone. You're not working by yourself. You're typically working as a team, and that's an area that we know ahead of time that we all kind of suck at. So, university typically provides you the opportunity to collaborate. Most universities have clubs. Join cyber clubs, join other areas on the university that are exploring cyber. Most universities have this. And if they don't, start it. That will build the collaboration, and that only works to get ahead in your career path. So, again, how do I get started? How do I start my career? Well, find a program that fits, first of all, your need, something that you would like, that you can see yourself enjoying. If you want to be an accountant and you hate numbers, it ain't going to work out. So find the area of cyber that you enjoy and then find a program that fits that need. Look at your goals. Make sure you understand where you want to go and put in the effort. Put in the time. Invest the energy. You can start a program, and if you only do half measures, you can get through the program possibly, but if you don't invest the time and energy, you're not going to be the worker that stays around. Put the effort, get the reward. And that's a big thing that I tell all my learners. You know where you want to go. You have that goal in mind. You know how to go from A to B. You know the finish line. You know where you're at. You have to invest the time and energy. You got to put that effort into it so that you can actually meet your goals and get to the finish line. Without the time, the energy, or the effort, guess what? The reward isn't going to be there. If you half measure this, you put in very little time, very little effort, you may get to the finish line, but guess what? You're not going to be ready. So invest the time, invest the energy, invest the effort. And that only works if you're going to like where you're going to end up. If it's not a goal that you actually want to achieve, you're not going to do it. You're not going to invest the time. You're not going to invest the energy. That's why I say the first step, find something that fits your need. Find something that you will enjoy, because that is the only way to really invest the energy, the time. All right, so I believe I am about my time. So thank you for the opportunity to share with you, and I'm going to look to see if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Arthur, for an insightful and informative session. It was a very interesting webinar, and I hope it was worth your time. Before we begin with the Q&A, let us know if you're interested to learn about our programs. Please take part in the poll that is going to be conducted now, and our concerned person will get in touch with you regarding your interest. So now we'll take the questions. So the first question is by Otsim. Can you provide with the list of certifications based on importance and recognition from employer?
Oh, that is really funny. It really depends. If you are doing a cyber operations program, it's going to be completely different than a cyber auditor. So it really depends on the industry, it depends on the program. However, I often found that having at least the foundation certifications help. For example, Network Plus, Security Plus, those are foundation certifications. I normally would say A plus depending on your computer literacy, but if you are computer literate, the A plus might not be your path. If you're not so confident, A plus actually helps build that confidence. So those are the big three to start off with. It, going from there, it would really depend. If you're going into a more of a networking role, I typically say at least a Cisco CCT or the CNT used to be the CCENT, but a Cisco CCNA at least. Again, building that foundation knowledge so that you have basic concepts. I often find people going, oh, well, for a cyber job, I have to have a CISSP, I have to have a CEH. The problem is those require experience. So those are great to have, but starting out, you're not going to get those. So what I often tell learners is when you're getting into the program and you're starting, the foundation certifications, the CompTIA certs are typically really good. If you're going into a security role that requires some programming, look at Python, look at the Python PCAP certs. Again, those are going to be more specialized, but they're going to at least give you the foundation knowledge in that area. If you're going to networking, you may not need to know the Python portion. So that's why I say it depends on the industry because there isn't a one size fits all type shoe. And again, you may ask 10 different people and they may give you different answers. I talked to a hiring manager here in Nevada. He's a CISO of a large corporation. He does not believe in any certifications. So again, it really depends on the sector and it really depends on the organization of that group. So I know that's not a straightforward answer, but I would start with the foundation, at least Network Plus, Security Plus, A plus if you're not that tech savvy, and build from there.
Thank you, author, for us answering that question. Moving on to the next question, it's from Daniel. How pragmatic is an online program on cybersecurity compared to face to face learning?
So, Daniel, this is actually a common question. I do teach for a few online programs. Not all online programs are created equal. Number one, that's one thing you got to realize they are not equal. How are you connecting the online portion to application? So, are you doing reading? Is that it? Is there a lab component? Are you doing labs that are functional? And if you're not, red flag. If you are doing just reading and there is no lab, red flag that it is not okay. Inside the US has a partnership with DHS and NSA that actually designates programs for CAE in cybersecurity, Center for Academic Excellency, and they're the ones that actually have to go through a review process to make sure their program, whether online or on site, is decent. Globally, there is no global standard at the moment, but again, look at hands-on. If you're in the US, look to see if they're a CAE issued by DHS. Those are the two big ones. The third, what type of learner are you? Are you the type of learner that can go through a online program and get material out of it? Not everyone can do online. My partner, nope. She is not an online person. She's an in-person person. And you give her an online program, doesn't work out. But I deal with learners that are great online. So you have to look at how do you learn? Can you learn online? And if you are an online learner, then it can be good for an online program. But again, is there a hands-on or applied portion? That's what you need to look at. Okay.
Thank you, Arthur. Moving on to the next question, it's by Naya Azi. For someone having a foreign law degree, what is the best way to get into cybersecurity? Can I apply to a master's with it? Can you advise me what should I do to get closer to cybercrimes and cybersecurity?
If you have a law degree, that actually opens a lot of doors. Cyber law, I don't have the book here. I have it at my office, not my home office. Cyber law is a growing field because guess what? I'm not a lawyer. When I advise organizations in the realm of cybersecurity, one of the first things I have to say is, I'm not a lawyer. We need to bring general counsel in. So having the law degree actually is extremely helpful. So, can you start a master's degree? Most programs, the answer is yes. A JD, a Juris Doctorate, is a terminal degree in your area. So, yes, you can start a master's program. You can also look at certificates depending on the program you're looking at. And with that law degree, you have a lot of opportunities in cyber, more so than someone with an MBA, more so than someone with a bachelor's in civil engineering. Yeah, the second you said law degree, again, a lot of doors are open because you have the understanding of the law. One thing that we fail to realize when we talk cyber, we have CIA, confidentiality, integrity, availability. Well, we have other controls that help build that CIA, that triad. One of them being administrative controls, policies, procedures. If you have the ability to read laws, to read policies, to read guidelines and procedures, you are a rare person. So, yeah, in cyber, if you have even just a beginning law understanding, the opportunities are definitely increased. What I would suggest is reach out to schools in your area and see kind of what area you enjoy. For the investigative side, I'd be looking at more of like a defensive or digital forensic side. I am on LinkedIn. You can always message me. I may take a day or two to respond, but we can talk offline more options if you'd like. But the big thing is reach out to the schools around you. A lot of opportunities for you as long as you do some research.
Thank you, Arthur. The next question is by Anucha. What tools and courses would be a nice place to start, and must I have programming knowledge?
No, you don't have to have programming knowledge whatsoever. Um, honestly, as long as you have a passion for learning, you're good. I have a lot of people that have zero programming experience. Does it help? Yes. Does networking help? Yes. Do you have to have it? No. It would make things easier, but you can still do it without it. I'd often say if you want to do some stuff before you get into cyber, there are online uh, portions that you can go through that can at least get you some experience. I actually am a big fan of like Try Hack Me, for example. Do some of their learnings, build the foundation. If you have the foundation, everything else comes a lot easier. Try Hack Me is free. They're pretty awesome, but not just that. If you look at cyber competitions, you can Google cyber competitions in my area. That's also a great way. You have to realize the first time you do a cyber competition, you're going to suck. That's just how it is. And that's okay. The first time you do bad, but that shows you where you're okay, shows you where you're good at, and shows you where you're weak at. It gives you opportunities to grow. It gives you opportunities to challenge yourself to grow. So I'd start those areas. Entry-level cyber competitions and try Hack Me. Those are two good areas. And from there, see what areas you enjoy and then go down those pathways.
Thank you, Arthur, for answering that question. The next question is how to introduce cybersecurity syllabus in university and collaborate with them so that we produce industry-ready professionals.
Honestly, that is very difficult, especially with understanding the area you're in. If you're in an area that the industry just doesn't want to work with you, it makes it very difficult. I find that industry talks. So here in Las Vegas, we are very active in the community. I don't plan my program. I don't go, hey, this is my degree. What I do is I go to hiring managers, hey, what do you need from my potential employer or my potential employees? What skills do you want my learners to have so they can come work for you? And oftentimes, the industry comes together and they are more than willing to go to the universities and be like, hey, these are what we're looking for. Typically, we call them like an advisory board of industry. That drives the university, that drives the colleges to kind of look at their local industry and tailor those programs for career ready individuals. So first thing is, if you already work for a university, reach out to your industry partners. If you have a university, you have to have industry partners. They're the ones that are guiding your programs, even if you don't know that they exist. And if you truly are one of the unicorns and you don't have one, reach out to the industry. Ask for people to give you feedback, and industry will, because guess what? Industry will give you the feedback because it saves them time and money to help you now. Because them helping you now build a better program means they get better workers out of you. So industry typically is very willing to work with you. They're very willing to collaborate with you, especially knowing that if you're willing to do it, they'll get a better product out of you in the long run. So it's a win-win for both.
Thank you, Arthur. Moving on to the next question. If you have a degree in cybersecurity already, how do you sort through the myriad of options in seemingly diverse specialization? How do one spot areas of opportunity that are in demand?
It doesn't matter if it's in demand. It honestly, at this point in time in 2022, what do you like? What do you enjoy? And until you can answer that question, it's very difficult to sort through the rest of it. Because realistically, cyber is not always easy. So if you have a passion for an area of cyber, for a silo of cyber, a section of cyber, that is where you start. If you're not sure which area of cyber you enjoy, well, you have to find that out first because there are so many opportunities in cyber that if you jump in and it's an area that you don't enjoy, you're not going to enjoy it. And that's what makes this very difficult. Find the area that you enjoy and then focus your job search in those areas. For example, I had one learner who was great at OSINT, open source intelligence. He was super at it. He enjoyed it. He loved it. He got a job as a cyber ops analyst looking at network traffic. He absolutely hated it. He did his 6 months, hoping that they would give him a intelligence position, and they didn't. They just kept him on the operations desk, and that ended up being bad. Go away. So you can wait like 5 minutes. Go away. Go away. So that's one of the challenges. You have to find your passion first. So the follow-up question that is, how do I know what my passion is? That is why I say competitions. Again, there are regular competitions, daily, weekly, and so forth. The reason I say that is because if you're new and you don't know what area you enjoy, if you do a daily competition and you do the different pathways, you can see where you gravitate. You can see which challenges you like. That tells you what areas you're going to enjoy. So hopefully that helps you. If it doesn't, again, message me in LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect with you and we can further this conversation offline.
Thank you, Arthur. We'll just take two more questions. Uh, is AI a threat to cybersecurity?
Oh, yes. Uh, it's a threat. It's a pro and a con. Cybersecurity is growing. We are only so fast. Having our technology built within AI or enabled, having AI enabled technology is growing. It is going to help. However, it can be weaponized. I actually just gave a training webinar yesterday in email security. And one thing I tried explaining was these phishing scams, the more complex ones are AI driven. The AI sits in your inbox, learning how you talk, learning how you compose messages, and so forth. And they sit there for months. And eventually the AI will eventually attack and they will write a message that is so similar to what you would write that people are really hard pressed to see if it's really you or not. So AI is a threat, but AI is also a solution in cyber. It all depends on how we want to use it. It is a truly double-edged sword. So with that in mind, the pros for AI are also growing. I have an IDS or IPS that's adaptive, that is AI enabled. That AI is able to learn and grow without my interference, essentially. And that is a benefit. That helps my organization. However, there's that negative side to AI that we have to keep in mind. So, again, double edged sword, and it all depends on how we use it.
Thank you, Arthur. We'll just take last question. Is coding required in cybersecurity? What is the scope of DevSecOps? It's the question by Karthik.
So, again, coding is not necessarily required, it's beneficial, it helps. Networking, it helps. Can you do it without it? Yes. But understanding coding makes it a little bit easier. For example, I'm going to use networking in my example, but you can replace the discipline with just about anything. If I'm doing some basic reconnaissance and I do a network scan and I do in-map and I scan the network, I can write the string of code to do that. Well, me getting the string of code to do that and me understanding what's happening are two different things. Having a network background and I see that, I understand what it's doing. I understand what the commands are doing. It gives me more clarity of what's going on. In the programming realm, if I look at a script and I'm told the script does these tasks. If I don't have a programming background, I really cannot know for certain. Having that background means when I'm looking at my tools or looking at my scripts, I might be able to discern it a lot better than someone that doesn't have that background. So, do you need it? No. Will it be helpful? Yes. So keep that in mind. It's not always that black or that white. Again, it's beneficial, but not required.
Thank you, author, for answering those questions and for the great presentation and knowledge shared to the global audiences. It was pleasure to have you with us, and we're really looking for more and more sessions with you. Before we conclude, author, would you like to give a message to our audiences?
Well, I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here. One of the big things is within cyber, within education, the big thing is ask. If you don't ask questions, how are you supposed to get an answer? Again, I am on LinkedIn, so if you have questions and you weren't quite sure how to ask them, message me. I'm more than willing. It may take me some time to get a response, but again, never fear asking questions because if you don't ask, the answer is no. But at least by asking, you get the opportunity to possibly get an answer. So again, thank you for having me, and I'm hoping to have more of these with you guys as well.
Thank you, Arthur. Pleasure to have you. And I would also like to thank all the attendees who have joined the webinar and took time to be part of Cyber Talk series and took part in the poll. Before we end the session, I would also like to announce our next Cyber Talk session. How can continuous automated red teaming provide scalability and better insights, which is scheduled for February 24th, which is tomorrow. This session is an expert presentation by Subin Thayali Candy, Senior Product Security Engineer, Salesforce. To register for the session, you can log into our website www.eccu.edu/cybertalks. The link is given there. You can register. Hope to see you all tomorrow. With this, we will end the session and you all may disconnect the line. Thank you, author. Pleasure to have you. Have a good day.